All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the first of our Fall Ball for Blues sessions here in September. This is following on what we did last fall, which I thought we all thought was a great opportunity. So we decided we would do it again this year. And most of you know, if you've registered for this one, we've got 3 more coming up. One in October, one in November, one in early December. So we hope these are valuable to you. We want to make sure that the time we spend, whether it's an hour or 90 minutes or whatever, once a month, that it's something that brings you a little different perspective on being a Little League umpire. And I also hope that we can keep you informed on what's going on in the world, the greater world of Little League umpiring. So those are our intentions, and I'm happy to have my new assistant district chief umpires, Jim Rose and Candido Anicete, joining us again tonight. Obviously, those 2 guys have been longtime key members of our umpire program, and I'm excited to have them bring their experience to bear on helping grow our program. So just a couple reminders about the meeting, right? We are recording, and we'll make this recording available on our YouTube page, our YouTube channel tomorrow. Keep yourself muted. If during the discussion you want to ask a question or add a comment, raise your hand, or there's so few of us on if you're on video, just wave at us, and Jim, who's monitoring what's going on during this part, will alert us and we'll get you recognized. And as much as it's always fun to talk about extreme, unusual circumstances, like how does an umpire call 3 balks on the same pitcher and the same batter in Major League Baseball in 1 at bat, let's don't try to go into those wild hypothetical things and take us off track from having the opportunity to learn and share with each other. So those are some of the kind of the ground rules for where we're going here. What are we going to talk about? Well, we can talk about whatever you want to, but this is what Jim and Candido and I have kind of said we should touch on. So briefly, I'll talk a little bit about hey, what happened during the 2022 season. And then if any of you have some observations or comments on your personal experiences, we're happy to hear about those. And then we want to alert you to the rule changes that are happening for this coming season. And in between items here, Jim will take us into some reviews of videos from the recently ended Regional and World Series play, and perhaps some others from where he's found good learning opportunities. And then, you know, if we have a little bit of time, we're always happy to talk about your questions. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the 2022 season just ended. If you look back to where we thought we were going to be in 2022 a year ago, I shared with everybody that league presidents felt like they were going to have a very strong season. We were going to be back up to near record numbers of players. Everyone was excited to be able to offer full range of programs with play at all the different levels. There was an increased interest in softball at many leagues. And probably the one area that wasn't going to be as strong as it had been was challenger baseball. So what really happened in 2022? I think Reality is numbers overall in the district were about the same as they had been prior to pandemic shutdowns in 2020. Many leagues exceeded past numbers, and are continuing that growth. Some leagues struggled. We lost Antioch Little League. It just failed to exist. So that's a big hole in the eastern part of Contra Costa County that where there is no Little League. But very successful in terms of most leagues being able to offer programs and find ways to get our players back on the fields. Also, I think it's not here in the words, but we had very good interleague play at Little League baseball, softball, and up into the teenage divisions. You know, we in the past, sometimes interleague play between leagues in the regular season was troublesome. Teams wouldn't show up, or we would have issues when they showed up with if they're really ready to play. There's some of that, obviously, just because of certain leagues' conditions, but in general, very, very strong participation in interleague programs. In the softball area, much more teams playing interleague than had been playing in the past. Some issues in the games when a team would show up and they have a set of rules for their home league, and then they come to an interleague game, and as we all know, the manager asks a question, where did that rule come from, right? So in general, a really successful season in terms of regular season. Thinking back on what we did as umpire development activities, I remember we had something called an advanced mechanics clinic. We also had a junior umpire clinic. Jim put on several sessions of Zoom rules training. We also, for general baseball and softball, we had a specific softball one. So we're planning to do very similar activities for this coming season, although our goal is to engage with leagues to find out what their needs are. Postseason tournaments, we had the full range of tournaments. Future Stars came back. All levels of TOC were played. And we had good participation from some leagues that hadn't been in certain areas of All-Stars in recent seasons. They came back to that. So that put a strain on our umpire needs for the postseason. Every league in the district participated in providing umpires for postseason. We had about 25% more umpires than in 2022 than we had in 2021. Some of that comes from just many more games to cover, so we needed more bodies. But it's a real strength that we were able to fill all those spots, and many new faces were seen on the field as tournament umpires. Those numbers are still kind of down from 2019 and prior, and so we have an opportunity to kind of entice more folks into being tournament umpires. Kind of talked already about 2023 a little bit. Leagues are experiencing record numbers in fall ball, and they're hopeful that's going to translate into increased enrollment in 2023 for regular season play. So we're excited about that. Of course, that for us, what does that mean, right? Demand for local umpires is going to be much greater once again. And the supply is, as we all know, limited. So when we think about our roles as volunteers in Little League, you know, we need to do what we can to find our friends and neighbors and work colleagues, whoever, and encourage them come out and support the community, perhaps be a Little League umpire. And then the district level, myself and Jim and Candido, you know, we'll be there to support the training needs to help get those new umpires engaged around their roles as Little League umpires. One area of strong focus is going to be softball umpiring. We don't have anything to share at this moment about specific plans, but we really need to find more umpires that will go onto the softball field and work those games. We're known in Northern California to be one who can host extensive postseason softball tournaments. We have good facilities to do that, but then that means we have an increased demand for softball umpires during the postseason. So these are some of the things looking back and maybe looking forward a little bit. Does anyone have any comments from their personal experiences over the last few months? Want to share? Don't be shy. Not seeing any, Jim, huh? So. Jim or Candido, do you guys have anything you can share reflecting back?
I was muted. Yeah, I think how to approach this. So, I'm going to speak a little bit more from the softball side. So I umpired in at least 3 leagues. And I thought there was, the teams were pretty good. I thought that we had good training. Ed and I put on the softball clinic. I thought we had fewer issues this year of just sort of fundamental rule issues than we have in the past. And listen, if any of you folks, have an alternative view of that and want to contact me about that, please do. And any advice will help. We were a little strained when it came to the tournament time, but that was, I think, in large part, we had sort of a confluence of a lot of softball tournaments at the same time. We went to the format where we were trying to do them within 2 or 3 days each tournament. So it was a lot of games per day. We had a couple of key umpires who went out on injured reserve for a while. And then our softball season, the dates changed on us at the last minute when there had already been a commitment made for baseball umpires. So I thought we did a pretty good job of filling spots, though I will admit we had to get a bit of help from other districts, and we were happy to welcome those folks. Yeah. And if any of you want to do more softball or do softball, please contact me and I will work with you or hook you up with folks who can work with you.
All right. Thanks, Jim. More to come. I mean, we're just now kicking off the season, and we're putting some strong development plans in place to recruit and train your umpires. So, okay. I'm trying to go ahead. There we go. So let's talk a little bit about rule changes that are coming at us for 2023. So a little bit about process. So every 4 years, Little League International hosts what's called the International Congress. And this year it was held in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And that was a great opportunity for probably about 1,000 volunteers from Little League around the world who showed up. And while most of the meetings were held in Williamsport, it was actually time for participants to go to South Williamsport to visit the Little League headquarters, where the 2 tournament stadiums are, and the housing for the players, and Little League Museum, and the all-important gift shop. So great opportunity for those of us who got to go to Congress. One, to once again meet and see folks that we've known from prior Little League activities, but also to visit the Little League headquarters. But the primary function of Congress, there's really 2. One is for Little League international employees to share with volunteers what is kind of coming out of headquarters in terms of strategy and direction for the Little League program. And so that's a big part of what Congress is all about. The second part, though, is discussing potential rule changes, and the process that's been in place with Congress for several decades is that district administrators get to vote on proposed rule changes. So the process starts during Congress with discussion sessions about the rule proposals, and then following at the end of Congress, there's actually voting. And if a proposed rule change gets 2/3 positive support from the voting district administrators, those rule changes are then endorsed by the Little League Board of Directors for implementation. So there are four. I mean, there's more than what's on my sheet, but a couple, but they really don't impact game playing, if you will. Now, before I talk about the 4 changes, some proposed changes did not make it through the approval process. The one that has been voted on in every Congress for like the last 5 is, why do we have the rule that in baseball, 60-foot baseball, if a runner leaves the base before the pitch ball reaches the batter, then we have to go through the process of returning runners or awarding bases, depend on the value of the hit. Why don't we just call the runner out like they are in softball? So that got voted on again, and it got 60% support, which is the highest it's ever had. So maybe in 4 years that will get 67%, and we'll no longer be throwing a signal flag and doing all the things we do around leaving the base early. There were some others that didn't get support, but they're fairly insignificant. So here are the changes that are going to be in place starting with the 2023 season. The first one is, as we all know, right, we as umpires argue with coaches all the time about, hey, hurry up and get your catcher out there to warm up the pitcher. And then here comes John, the coach, to warm up the pitcher. And in fact, some leagues actually had a local rule that said it was okay for managers and coaches to warm up pitchers. Well, the rule has changed. So now, starting in the regular season, managers and coaches can warm up a pitcher anytime, anywhere at the game site. This was sold primarily as speeding up the game, the pace of play. There were the contrarian views that, hey, Little League historically has been a kids' game. Why are we putting managers and coaches out on the field playing the game? The other things that were discussed is, what will be the safety requirements around an adult who's catching a pitcher warming up. If it's dangerous for a 16-year-old to warm up a pitcher and then that they must have a mask with a dangling throat guard and a catcher's mitt, is it safe for an 18-year-old adult coach to warm up a pitcher with no protective gear? So, those were some of the discussions that happened. Ultimately, this got like 73% votes positive to change the rules. So there you have it. Again, if you have questions about any of these, please interject and we'll try to discuss them. How this actually gets translated down into each league's regular season activities, yet to be seen. There may be some leagues that say, I don't want coaches and managers warming up pitchers. I think generally in our district, most of the presidents were in the camp of let's speed the game up. I think the other thing that was shared by many of our presidents was that travel ball does it. Little League needs to do it. We're losing kids to travel ball, which, okay, I get it. All right, so that's Rule 309.
Jim, you got something?
Yeah, two things. One, so what are the safety requirements for coaches and managers warming players up? Are they established?
At this point, I don't think they are. And will there be any? I don't know.
So, Jim, I guess the answer is right. So if you're an adult and you're an adult base coach, there's no requirements for you to wear any protective gear in the base coach box, right? If you're a youth in the base coach box, you have to wear a helmet. So I'm expecting that headquarters is silent on this. So they want to leave it up to an adult to make their own informed decision about what they need to do in terms of safety. I wouldn't want to be out there warming up a 10-year-old pitcher without a cup. I'll tell you, just be honest with you. But,
I'm in on that vote.
yeah.
And I might want a mask too.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be what discourages it from becoming a common practice.
Well, I think each league needs to kind of discuss this, right? And it's going to be kind of cumbersome for coach to put on a mask and do all that, right? Because what is the coach going to bring out? He's going to bring out his umpire mask, right? And we all know that the reason we have full enclosure helmets is prevent head injury. Full enclosure helmets on batters is to prevent head injuries. And the big risk for head injuries is the bat, right? Facial injuries from the ball, yes, but the bat coming around hitting the catcher in the side of the head is one of the reasons we have the full enclosure catcher's helmets and not just open-sided masks.
And this can't be deemed optional from league to league. This is a rule. Could you go against it and say, we're not doing that?
Well, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, but have they actually written the rule yet?
Yes. Well, I mean, have they written the rule? The rule is not in the rule book yet.
Yeah.
Because the rule books for 2023 are not published, right? But it is on the rule change page on the Little League website with the wording. So there is no more guidance than the wording that we have here. All right.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to list local option for that.
Right. Okay, this is regular season only also. Jim and I were not in on the discussions during Congress when these were discussed. So how it got changed to regular season only is a big mystery, but and then we watched the World Series this year, and the Hawaii team had their coach in the bullpen warming up the pitcher, right? And then the next day there was somebody from the Little League security staff out in the bullpen making sure that didn't happen. So who knows? All right, let's move on. Rule 4.10, this is the concession rule, the mercy rule, not to be known as the slaughter rule. So again, we're talking about limiting the length of a game. And so now the rule will be now after 5 innings, if a team is ahead by 8 runs, the game is to be conceded by the losing manager to the team that's ahead. So you can see it's 15 after 3, 10 after 4, 8 after 5, or 1 more inning if we're in a teenage division. The rule is pretty specific that you don't get to pick 1 of the 3, 2 of the 3. It's 3 of the 3 or none of the 3. And this is a regular season. This is a league option to implement. So don't know how this is going to play out, but again, it's playing to those folks that don't want to be hanging around for a 3-hour game. All right, so I'm going to move to the next one if there's no questions there. Okay, 608, intentional walks. So we all know that up through last season, you could only do it at the Little League, major and minor level by having the manager tell the umpire, hey, I want to intentionally walk this batter. Then no pitches are thrown and the pitch count is increased to cover the automatic balls that are added to put the runner on base by intentional walk. So that's now been expanded to all levels of play of baseball, not softball, or baseball. And the same kind of process, the manager has to inform the plate umpire, hey, I want to intentionally walk that batter. But the batter, that player can only be intentionally walked by announcement once during the game. So those of you who watched the West Region tournament and you saw the player from Hawaii, well, not from Hawaii, from where was he from? Forget the team, but they walked him like 3 times in the same game. So can't do that anymore intentionally. You can still throw 4 balls to the batter and walk them, but so this will make it a little easier. We won't have to remember, oh, we're doing 60-foot, manager can intentionally walk. No, we can do it at all levels. We actually had this in the senior baseball West Region tournament where the manager wanted to intentionally walk a batter and the umpire put the batter on base. The opposing manager, the offensive manager came out, questioned the plate umpire, and got it overruled and brought the batter back to the plate, and the next pitch went to the backstop. So now we're going to eliminate all that opportunity to have plays around walks by, having the batter either hit the ball or the ball get away from the catcher. But yeah, that's again, speed up the game. Then the last one for tournament time.
Don, can I interject for a second?
Oh, sorry, Jim. Yeah.
2 things on that. One is softball has that at all levels, the intentional walk. The other thing is that you can still intentionally walk the same player throughout the game. It's just that you can only do it once by announcing it and sending him that runner to first, but you can still throw pitches wide with a traditional intentional walk.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jim. In softball, I guess I was following what it said on the Little League rule change site, and I didn't go look at the softball rule book. So thanks for clarifying that. And then the last one is number of managers and coaches in the dugout. So now during All-Star play, it's going to be three coaches, the manager and coaches. One of them might not be an adult, but maximum 3 adults permitted, regardless of the number of players on the tournament roster. So another thing for us not to have to worry about, it actually provides, better supervision in the dugout, provide some good support to players. I mean, that's how the story goes. So I think headquarters said this, by having a limited number of coaches, really did nothing to influence the size of a team. What probably did more to influence the size of a team was the mandatory play requirements. So we still have, if you have a small all-star team, you still have different mandatory play requirements. So they're falling back on using that to try to drive increased all-star participation. Like I said, these are the rule changes. A couple that aren't on here that are coming, which are kind of organizational. One of them that was discussed was have open boundaries for, which would mean that the first time a player is registered to play Little League, they could register anywhere, any place, and then they would be property of that league for the rest of their Little League life unless they were released. That did not pass. It only got like 50% vote. But expect that that's going to happen sometime, as we look to make sure kids have the opportunity to play, that we're not creating barriers to participation. So, all right. Jim, did I miss anything on here? I think I covered most of the key rule things for umpires, but
No, I think those are the ones.
okay, good.
You don't want to address the 3 and 4 year olds, right?
I'm not even sure what happened to that, but yeah. No, we're talking about whether we can have 3-year-olds in T-ball now, so we'll leave that up to each league. Okay, Jim, so we used about a half hour. So you want to transition and have you take over now, if you will. I'll kind of lead this in as if you had the opportunity to have an ESPN Plus subscription during July and August, you were probably glued to your computer screen or for 4 weeks on nonstop. And there's a lot of interesting things that you learn from watching regional and World Series play from around the country and watching umpires from different parts of the world umpire. So I think Jim's gleaned a few things, and we'll let him take over for now, huh?
Okay, can you hand me back control? There you go.
Yep.
Did you do that? 1 second. Okay, can everybody see that? Okie dokie.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you. So, a lot of what I end up doing when the regionals are on or the World Series is that I'm watching them and I grab my phone and I take videos of particular plays. If I'm then have time or I'm able to, I actually download the game and then grab that part that has a particular play that is of interest. So that some of these will be from YouTube. Some of them are actually me with my shaky hands recording these off the TV. So apologize ahead of time if some of them aren't the best viewing, but I think they're all right. So the ones that I picked are ones that sort of can get us to talk about mechanics, rules, positioning, and philosophy. And what we're going to see tonight is not all of them. There are going to be plenty more. And if any of you are thinking about, oh, is he going to play the ending of that West or that Northwest regional championship between Oregon and Washington that ended on quite a sour note. We're not going to see that tonight, but we will be dealing with that at a future Fall Ball for Blues. I want to emphasize this. The goal is not to criticize any of the umpires shown. And if you were to watch my games down in San Bernardino as a regional umpire this year, and if the camera caught me at various times, you would look at me and go, what the hell is that umpire thinking and what are they doing? So we all do things that we're not proud of. So again, point is not to criticize these umpires. The goal is to learn how we can be better umpires, take away things that these umpires do that are good, but also, talk about what could be done differently. We're going to have a discussion. I'm just going to lead through these, but I would rather not be the one doing a lot of the talking. So I would like, everybody to just chime in with your comments. You don't have to put up a hand because I actually don't have all of the screens up. Just unmute yourself. And if you have a comment to make, let other people have a first stab at commenting at various times. And listen, we can always disagree, but it's always it's a debate and it's in the spirit of learning. Okay, so what we're going to do is start off with a series of videos on positioning. And one of the things these are going to get at is that Western region is beginning to change its instruction on how do we position ourselves at first base. So all of these are going to be calls at first base. So I'd like you to look at this video and offer any comments you have about the positioning of the first base umpire. You're going to see this twice. Easy ball hits the shortstop. We have an out at first. Any comments about the positioning of this umpire?
He's way off the line.
Yeah, he looks a little deep.
Okay. A little bit too close to the second base side, right?
Yeah, but he should be about halfway between where he is and A position.
Can I also say something that Western Region is now teaching as of this year? They're teaching that there is no, ABC with this, with the idea of this particular play, that they actually want the umpire closer to the first base line all the time, meaning, in other words, be able to see that pulled foot. So he's really, according to Western Region, he's really far in.
Okay.
Yeah, he should be standing more like, should be standing more like point to point. The near point of that bag and then the far point where the first baseman's foot is. You just draw that line in between. This is not an absolute thing, obviously, because it's going to change based on where the fielders are and how the throw goes to the first baseman. But at least somewhere in that general area, specifically for the pulled foot.
Yeah,
They're moving away from the 90-degree positioning from the point of the throw?
Yeah, I think he's out of position on 90 degrees from the shortstop anyway. He should be about halfway over to the first base line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's third base positioned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, right. That's about right.
Okay. And that earlier comment, that was you, John, from District 57?
Yes, yes, sir. And that's
Okay.
that is again, that's what Western Region is teaching now is that we're not doing a 90 degree anymore, that they're actually teaching to go to what would be considered a second base position. And that's for all plays at first base.
Okay. So when I was at the 3-day clinic back in March, and then at the advanced clinic in June, they were instructing basically that we're no farther than 10 feet behind the first baseman, and that we essentially take one step in. And so this would be, our calling position would be more over here. What's the philosophy of that, do you think? Why is Little League saying that? But that isn't the absolute. But why would that be the case?
But I do think that would allow you to see the pulled foot better because you're more in line with where it's going to come off the bag.
Okay. Good
And-
point.
and-
But it
run-
blocks you from seeing the ball hit, coming to the glove as well. I know you're supposed to listen for it, but you are going to miss that because you're
Okay.
behind it now.
I think you'll also get a better peripheral view, not a lot, because it's supposed to be, plate umpire trailing, but you do get a better peripheral view of any runner's lane violation.
Okay, from positioning here rather than over here.
Yeah, I mean, just if that's the new philosophy, that would be another good reason for doing that.
Okay. So one of the things that Little League is talking a lot about is the action side of the base. Now, a lot of times on plays, say a steal of second, the action part of the base is, where the runner is coming in. And if we think about an action part of a tag of a base, traditionally that tag is going to be on this side of the base. And if there's a pulled foot, this is what we need to see. Is there a gap here? And it's hard to tell a gap from over here. It's easier to see that gap right there. So let's look at another one here. This is a ball coming from behind. And I'll play it again. So this would be the equivalent of a bunt. Okay. What are your thoughts on that one?
Didn't look like his feet were even set and he was squared to the base when the ball got there.
Okay. That it took him so long to get from right here all the way over to here that he's still moving at the point that the ball is getting there.
I mean, he's still pivoting.
And we used to have this philosophy that on a bunt that we try to get this, again, recreating that 90-degree angle. And in this case, if the ball's coming from around home plate, the 90-degree angle would be there. But again, where is that, where's that action part of the base? Where's his foot? In terms of seeing a pulled foot, he's going to have a much better chance here. Now,
And he's also going to have a chance of getting beamed.
Yeah, there's that. And if that ball does get away, he's in the path of the runner where he ended up, by the way.
Well, majors and below, it's more than an if.
Yeah, right. Fair point.
But then sometimes with the ball coming from back here, you could imagine a fielder setting up his foot here, even though he's going to end up maybe getting plowed into. But again, these are youths. And in this case, this would be the action part of the base, and maybe coming in more would give you a better angle of that pulled foot, something that home plate umpire would never really be able to see. So let's do a play where we see what we lose by coming in far into the infield. There's going to be a lot of different views of this one play. Great stretch, by the way. So he's clearly calling him safe off the base.
He just can't see it. I mean,
Exactly. Now,
yeah, there's just no way he's seeing that. Yeah, I mean, he got it wrong, but there's no way he could see it.
yeah, so now we have this angle where it looks like his foot could have been on the base when he caught it and then it came off. And in fact, it went to review and it got overturned. So here would be that case of this is the action part of the base, and this is where can you see that? You really would need to be right here to be able to see that. We had runners at second and third, fewer than 2 outs. So plate umpire is actually setting up for a possible play at home. And in fact, there was, after they realized there's a runner coming home, this fielder throws to home, and there was a fairly close play at home. So this umpire couldn't offer any kind of help here. It's all him. And if he were here, he would have had a better view of it. So again, know that Western region is now teaching to basically take a step out. That doesn't mean that you have to stay there. We're not going to be spot umpires, but that is the recommendation. I want to go back to one thing here. And for all of you who want to become a Western region or a regional or a World Series umpire, notice the sleeves that he's wearing. So the directive came down from Little League that no visible tattoos are allowed on umpires' arms. And so that's why he has these 2 sleeves on. At our regional, there were umpires out there who had to cover their tattoos. They were wearing long sleeve shirts in 98-degree heat. So just know that that's what you'll be expected to do.
Gang.
Jim,
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So plays around first base, right? So I think, Jim, you covered the philosophy right. That what do we have? We have a tag play at first base because the fielder needs to tag the base, be in possession of the, control the ball through that tag, and the runner's advancing. And traditionally, I think has been commented, right? We said, hey, listen, watch the foot and listen for the ball in the glove. Well, some of us are kind of hearing challenged, and I'm one of them. And I have not been wearing hearing aid on the field, although I'm going to try to do it next season. So traditionally, I've relied upon some fabulous peripheral vision to be able to evaluate the ball into the glove, the runner acquiring the base. So as we narrow that angle down and those examples you showed, Jim, I mean, the last one, and our poor friend from the Caribbean, had lots of opportunities in the series. This would be tough for me to know whether the ball was in the glove, because the glove actually, as it's coming up, right, it's kind of down on the ground. So remember that we've got to evaluate all those actions at the same time. The other is Jim, you kind of said, hey, we're not spot umpires, right? We've got to be able to move to see the action. So that's another thing you'll hear is we're always working, right? We're not just standing in one spot and we're working. I think Ed, you brought up, hey, we're going to get beamed if the ball gets past the fielder. Yeah, we may, right? But our primary responsibility is safe out. And so we need to see that play and we need to make the proper judgment. The last thing I'll add is everything Jim's showing you, right? There's 4 umpires on the field. So responsibilities are a little different for this first base umpire than it might be in a 2 umpire crew, and the same for the plate umpire. And the other complication is every one of these videos Jim's showing you went to video review. And so that's the other complication, right? So managers and coaches know that if they're fairly confident on that the wrong call was made, they go to video review and get a free overturn. So again, it's caution about, hey, let's learn from this and not be too it's like, oh boy, that umpire really missed this. But I think this first base umpire from Curacao has had 3 World Series now. So I guess the lesson learned is don't be from California, be from Curacao. But all right,
Smaller pool. I just one observation.
Sure.
Don, I do the same thing you do. At the lower levels, you can't always hear the ball going into the glove. Maybe it's my hearing, but some of those throws are softer. Some of the kids are, have a kind of a soft catch. You can't always hear it. So I always visually check that. Maybe it's quick, when they're shorter, it's easy too. You can kind of see both at the same time. But positioning where you can see that ball into the glove, I think does make some difference.
so I'll just leave it, Brian. Yeah, I'll just leave it that we have to umpire within our physical and mental, emotional capabilities. And there are reasons why we're showing these, but if you have to do something different to be effective, then do that. And then you'll be a happier umpire, right? So, all right, Jim, thank you. Sorry, I went
No.
there.
Okay. Skip that. Okay. So here we go. Now we're going to complicate things a little bit. Okay, so this is a play that when it starts, it's unclear whether the ball is going to be caught, and it's a little bit unclear who is going to catch the ball. It is clear that the pitcher isn't coming over to cover the base, but at a certain point, it becomes kind of clear that the first baseman is going to have the ball, and now either we're going to have a foot race with first base, or there's going to be a toss to second baseman. So discuss the positioning of the umpire on this one.
It's obviously screened.
Okay.
I think that, I mean, happening in slow motion, I'm sorry, happening in slow motion, it's easy to,
I think somebody needs to mute themselves. Thanks.
so yeah, so it's obvious here in slow motion that he's going to be screened, but perhaps if he'd been a little more, I don't know, aware that that other fielder was coming over, he would have just worked to the outside, been in foul territory instead, anticipating the screen.
Okay, so you're saying at a certain point in here, he's actually only now stepping into, he
Yeah.
could sort of see what's happening and step into fair territory at this point.
Foul.
Foul,
Foul.
I'm sorry, yes, foul. And then from that, he would be able to see pretty much perfectly, right?
Yeah, if he'd
Yeah, I
stayed
mean-
where he started,
Okay,
he'd been in.
Yeah,
exactly
it's going to be
the
a
spot.
train wreck anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Jim, I have to say that if it weren't for the screen, this umpire is in the exact same spot he needs to be in. And I think
Right.
that, again, you kind of look at sometimes baseball happens and sometimes you're in the right place and somebody just gets in your way. I don't know, because again, it goes back to what part of the action or the action side of the bag he needed to see was the touch on the bag, by the fielder. So he's in the right spot to see that. It's just, I think it's a matter of that player just got in his way. I think if he was in foul territory, he doesn't have the angle to see that side of the bag that he needs to.
Okay.
Yeah, and the kid coming over from second easily could have gone further over and blocked him there too. It's just a play that's going to happen every now and again where you're screened like that.
So I guess one of the things I would say is if you watch this umpire, right here, he freezes. And you can see that runner already, the second baseman sort of come over here. This is a play, it seems like at the very least, he could have taken a step and a lean to maybe get around looking at that second baseman. So this is sort of freezing in a position without, it's a sense of you've come to your primary calling position, but as the play develops, you realize you need to move to a secondary calling position. And that's what he doesn't seem to do. And all it is just taking a step with this foot, a little bit of a lean, and you might have a better view. So this is a freeze frame of pretty much when that play is happening.
I would say you couldn't pick a better one to have to call blind. It could have gone either way.
He got it right. It was a credit. And I think, he got still and was, concentrating. Any more on that one before we go on? Okay. So here we have a dribbler down the first base line that's going to be fielded by the first baseman. We're going to have our umpire from Curacao again and talk about this positioning. The whole play is going to be in slow motion. Okay, so we have a runner that's clearly safe. There was an attempt on to tag him from behind. What do you folks think about the positioning of this umpire?
Why doesn't he move at all?
Yeah, he basically does this kind of creeping up steps right up the line.
Amazing he didn't get plowed.
Yeah,
Pretty close
yeah.
to getting plowed.
On one
He
of
just
these
had to get
balls,
some angle. He had to get an angle to get that tag. You had to get out at least. If you'd done even what you said Western Region is uh, teaching now, just get a full step out there, he would have had the angle on that. So did he end up calling him out?
nope, called him safe.
Good.
But I think it was
It's
Don's
dangerous.
comment. Don's comment at the time was he got lucky. So one of the reasons he got lucky is this fielder kind of messes up. He fields the ball cleanly and then kind of is slow getting up. And then watch his left leg. He actually steps backwards, then steps forward. So if he had picked up this ball right here and stepped forward instead of backwards, this would have been a much closer play. So one of the things that Western Region would say on a play like this, and it's also think about it with this over throws that take a fielder off of first base. Maybe the throw is a little bit wild and they catch it in front of the base. Is the runner going to be tagged on the back? If the runner's tagged on the back, we need to try to get as far in as we can. Now, obviously, we have fielders converging here, and that would have been difficult. But if it's a backside tag, this is where we're going to see that angle for that. If the fielder is in front of the runner and the runner is running by, we're going to have probably a hip side tag. And with that, we're going to see it rather well from right here, actually. So here, the sense is come to here, and if you need to, step in a lean to get to the line to see that hip side tag, if that's what it is. So again, no right or wrong answer of where you are. There's always these guys who are going to get in the way a lot of times. But that is sort of the philosophy, and it isn't saying we have to do it. It's saying, that Western Region is kind of saying, we think that this gives us better angles for making calls.
Yeah, that's a primary calling position, but you always adjust to wonky things that can happen.
Absolutely. Be ready to move. Okay. Changing from first base, what would you do in this situation if there was no medical staff? So at the regionals and at the World Series, you as an umpire, player gets hurt. All you're doing is calling time and asking a medical person to come out. You have no further role in this, but in your regular season and also out in our district all-star play all the way through state, we're not going to have medical personnel there. And we have to decide to do things. So watch this video and talk about what you see and what you think you would have done and what are your protocols in this. So this is going to be what our major league umpires would call a foul tip to the mask that went back to the backstop. But this is going to be a foul ball that hits the catcher in his mask. Okay, what are your thoughts about that?
Good Lord. His body language, his affect, the way he was holding onto his ears, like his ears were ringing when he took that off. I think they made a grave mistake.
Okay. Others?
Well, I mean, that's a medical person went out and evaluated him on that one. I mean, I agree. If that had happened in front of me, I'd ask the coach to find somebody else. He didn't
Okay.
look good.
Okay.
I was shocked when I saw that they let him continue to play. No way. I don't know. I mean, medical personnel, fine, they're certified and everything else. But I think that as a person who has had a concussion like that, as an umpire, I took a fastball just like that to the center of my mask. He is displaying all the signs. I mean, especially in that affect. He's not just disappointed. That kid right now on this screen is showing that he is not feeling well.
Mhm. And the player did stay in, but then was removed from the game later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I saw that happen, I'd ask the coach to put somebody else in.
Okay.
He just doesn't look good when he's coming out of that.
There'd be no way I'd let him continue to play.
Okay. Yeah, it seems kind of obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It was actually rather amazing because this is the Little League World Series, and they had a player fall out of his top bunk and go to the emergency room and basically have part of his skull removed to relieve pressure off his brain. So Little League was very self-conscious of this. That player's story was being talked about a lot on ESPN here. ESPN announcers even said something like, well, if there's any question, they will err on the side of safety and take him out. So I think we're agreed that in our local games, if we ever see this, if we see a player getting staggered like that, and as Ed said, looks like his ears might be ringing, whether or not we do a test with our fingers, and he's able to track it, err on the side of caution. Err on the side of caution.
I would say even with training and being cautious, it's even difficult to recognize in yourself, because even when I got my concussion earlier this year, I didn't realize for a full day that I had a concussion.
Okay, that's a good point. And that raises a point that Don and I have talked about when we're on the field, that if we see either of us, and we should all do this, if we see our fellow umpire get hit in the head with a baseball, in the mask, that we come in and make that him or her take off their mask, talk to them, and do an assessment. We all got to look after each other.
Amen.
Hey, so Jim,
Yeah.
couple comments on this. So this is the Little League World Series, right? And so teams have come from all over the US and all over the world. Not every state in the United States has the same concussion awareness training requirement that we do here in California, and the obligations that we place upon those in responsible charge of youth sports activities like we have here in California. Little League does have its concussion protocol, and yes, there were medical personnel at the game. So I think we can say, one, let's make sure we've all done our required training here in California. So we know when we see symptoms of concussions, potential concussions, we can bring those to the attention of, of the game managing personnel. So we had a situation like this in the senior baseball West Region tournament. The right field, not sure if it's the right fielder or the second baseman, took a pop-up, a fly ball to the head. Basically missed it, and it hit him in the head. And the umpires went out and did the 1, 2, 3 fingers. The umpires happened to be, two of the umpires were former firemen, retired firemen. So they went out and did some sort of assessment. The manager went out. They left the player in the game. Immediately, the player is scratching his head, moving his hat back and forth, waving his arms. And after 2 batters, off-field personnel intervened with the umpires and said, we need to stop the game, and that player is demonstrating concussion symptoms, right? Possible concussion. And the way it played out was the responsibility was transferred to the manager by telling the manager happened to be from California, telling the manager, hey, you from your California-based training, you know that you need to make a decision on whether that player should continue or not. The observation of those off the field is this, that's possible concussion, but you're the on-field person. And so that transferred the responsibility to the manager, who then removed the player. Now, in this case here at Williamsport, I'm a little surprised that the manager didn't remove the player. Why would the manager have not removed the player? Was he relying upon the on-field medical personnel? Hey, this is my star player. I want to leave him in. It's the Little League World Series. We don't want to take kid out. But you can guess that if the few of us here in Northern California watching this game saw it, there was others who probably questioned the decision at the time. So again, remember, let's work with others on the field, the managers of the teams, and you to make sure we do the right thing for the players when we have this kind of a potential injury that really can't be known. We can only observe the symptoms and then say, hey, if then likely potential concussion, right? So difficult situation. There was another one of these in San Bernardino, similar in the baseball tournament. So we have examples of where we just need to err on the side of, the right judgment for our young players.
Mhm. Yep. Okay. So this section, and we'll go through a few of them and then we'll let you folks go. This is a section sort of be ready for the unexpected. One of the things we should always be aware of is where our fielders are positioned. And we always want to keep an eye on the status of the runners, and we always want to be ready for secondary calls after primary calls, especially if we've called a runner safe and we know that there's a defensive player, an offensive player, and a ball. So these are little things to keep in mind, and these are some videos that came up mostly from World Series play. Okay, so this was interesting because Australia is on the field, defense, and they actually just had to run out of their dugout because they thought that they had a triple play on the play before this. We'll actually be seeing that play in a later video or later fall ball for Blues. So they thought they got a triple play. They all came into the dugout, high-fiving. They're getting ready to bat, and the umpires huddled and made a call, and then it went to review. The umpire's call was confirmed, and all of a sudden, this team has to come back out with no outs and the bases loaded. So they've just come out. This is the first pitch after that incident happened. Here's the shortstop. And there's the second baseman running onto the field. When this play started, and actually as it ensued, that was the defensive positioning. There was no second baseman. So, one of the things we do as umpires is we, and our 2 umpire crew, we really should look through the field, especially when players come out, and make sure everybody's ready, everybody's there. So it would seem like this second base umpire could have quickly viewed here and gone, wait a second, we're missing a player. So always know where the fielders are. Okay, softball. Here we have Greenville. It's the third place game at Greenville. Does anybody recognize that handsome umpire at first base?
Well, I see Mark, but
That's we'll let him know you said that.
love you, brother.
Mark couldn't be here tonight, but that's Mark Oda at first base. And so here we have no outs. We have a runner at first. So we're going to see this twice. Unfortunately, ESPN cut away at a critical point. But the ball went back to second base. They tried to get the runner out, and they couldn't. So for those of you who do softball, do we see any problems here?
Did the plate umpire ever signal that fair?
Yes, he did. So all I can imagine is that at this point right here, it touched the catcher's glove. And watch his mask hand. He's points out his mask hand as a fair ball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
But it does raise a question about the positioning of the plate umpire. So here we have a ball that's going up which line? First base line or third base line?
Third base.
Third.
And that's the way he's,
So if we want to get an angle of a fair ball that's going to be right here, this would have been the logical way to go.
yeah.
In other words, third base extended. He went first base extended. And I think kind of had to guess because he had a fielder right in front of him.
Oh, he's completely blocked.
Yeah. So he's kind of guessing, but guess what?
It
He
slapped
got
off
fair.
the plate though, right?
It
Did she
did go
slap
off
it off
the
the
plate.
plate? Yeah.
Yeah. Slapped off the plate.
So he saw that.
Yeah. But he called fair. So
Yeah.
balls goes to second. Mark calls the runner out.
First.
Ball goes back into the circle right here.
Why does
So
the runner head back from second?
Oh, the runner was heading back.
Yeah,
yes, yes.
the coaching question.
So know the status of the runners, and especially in softball, always know the status of the ball and when the ball is in the circle. And when the ball is in the circle and a runner is on a base, what can that runner not do?
Leave it.
Exactly. So only if that pitcher is making a play or an attempted play, but there is no play. She's just walking in the circle.
Oh, she's out. She's supposed to be out right there.
Yeah.
Boom.
Right. So when does the pitcher actually make a play? This is judgment. It could be she's raising, if you want to be generous, she's raising her arm there. If you want to be more critical, it's that she's getting into a throwing position at this point. But either way, she's out right there.
Right there.
So,
Breaks contact.
and it wasn't called. So again, as in softball, always be watching the stands in the circle.
We're doing, I got AMR hopefully to donate an 80 for us. Still waiting for that. They're also going to do our safety first aid.
Yeah, I think somebody needs to
Cool.
mute. So here's two relevant rules. 701.
Yeah, they're, one's 11 and one's 9, and they're both doing major.
Candido, go on mute.
Come back. I might stay in the play. But maybe in the spring I'll have.
Is that Candido?
Husband having interest in umpire? Does he coach?
He's got MS.
Whoever the host is can actually mute the.
Yeah,
Even
I'm trying to
out,
get
he
that.
He can't.
Okay.
He can't. Even being first base coach, he's
What
like,
about, what about
There we go. Okay. So the relevant sentence is here in Rule 701. If a runner legally requires title to a base and the pitcher has control of the ball within the 8-foot radius circle and is not making a play, the runner may not return to a previously occupied base. So once that ball goes into the circle, even if you think you missed a base, you cannot leave that base. And 708, any runner is out when the runner fails to keep contact with the base to which that runner is entitled until the ball has been released by the pitcher on delivery. Okay, we have one more video. And again, this will be softball. This is the championship game of the Little League World Series 10-12 this year. So there's going to be a runner at first and a little pop-up that gets caught. Nobody's listening to their plea.
Yeah, she was on the orange bag. Made it back there okay, but and when she stands up, she's standing with 2 feet on the orange bag.
Now she's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's supposed to be out.
Is that toe though of that other foot on the white bag? I mean, that's the only question you
No.
have, right?
No, it's up.
Oh yeah,
It's
you're right.
up.
So we can even see a shadow underneath it.
Yeah.
So a couple things about this play. One, let's give some credit to that first base umpire who saw this play evolving and got into a position in foul territory to be able to see that part of the play.
Yeah,
So
it's a good
that
call,
was-
good position.
What's that?
Good call, good position.
Yeah, absolutely. Call's safe. We still have a ball. We still have offense, defense, and he stands and looks. And this is good. This is what we should be doing, not taking our eyes off the play. But then at this point, he turns around and his back is to the play. And you can already see that this runner has taken her foot off the white bag. She's over in the orange bag. Once you've reached first base, the orange bag disappears. It's exactly the same as standing on the dirt. If that were no orange base, it was just dirt, it would be the equivalent of that. So this is the problem, that he turns his back on a play that could still happen. And guess what? It bites him in the butt because that happens. The coach came over and quizzed him, and she stayed at first base. Okay, Don.
Jim, thanks. You know, too bad that last play, that was just the championship game of the Little League Softball World Series. No one was watching, right? No one saw that. No, the whole world was watching, right? So we do have to know what we're doing and be aware. So let's kind of wrap up, because all good things have to come to an end. And we kind of hope you've enjoyed the 90 minutes or so tonight. I just want to remind folks about a couple things. It's off season now, so you can relax theoretically, or you can stay ready and get focused for next year. Remember to join the Little League Umpire Registry if you're not a member. This is the home landing spot for all Little League umpires. Lots of good training stuff there. It's also the place where you can nominate yourself for a regional or World Series assignment. So join the Umpire Registry. Also check out our umpire resources on the District 4 website, where there's also a link to our YouTube channel for all our good videos and the video of tonight's meeting. So we don't really have time for questions unless somebody has one. I want to remind folks that the next fall ball is Wednesday, October 26th via Zoom. You can register on the California 4 website like you did for this one. I encourage you to do this. Bring your friends along, have them join us so that we can get a good discussion going, because I'm sure we'll have many other things to cover next month. And if you have something that you'd like us to program into the discussion, let me know or let Jim know, and we'll do our best to include that. So I think that brings us to the end tonight, unless someone's got a specific question that we need to address. If not, we'll kind of end the meeting and look forward to seeing all of you next month.